She said she worked late. I followed her once, then left a letter, a photo, and a ring behind. It was a Tuesday, one of those still, heavy mornings in late autumn where the air just sort of waits. Quentin Voss had already made 2 cups of coffee and watched the same sports highlights twice. That morning silence had grown louder every minute Brielle wasn't home. And yet, when she finally walked in, it wasn't her lateness that set everything in motion. It was what she left behind. Her ring. In the cup holder. Plain as sunlight. Now here's the thing, Quentin was not a paranoid man. He was calm, methodical. The kind of guy who organized his garage in alphabetical order. The kind who didn't jump to conclusions, didn't explode. That wasn't his way. But that ring. Brielle Voss had worn that ring every day for 23 years. Wore it during childbirth. During arguments. Even during a week-long stomach flu that had left her too weak to hold a toothbrush, she still wore that ring. And now? Just sitting there. Like a forgotten coin. Cold. Unbothered. She kissed his cheek like it was just another Tuesday. Tossed her coat on the armchair and mumbled something about a rough night at Strathpine General. Said she'd been on call. Didn't want to wake him. All the usual lines. Polished like marble. Quentin stared at the cup holder for nearly 10 minutes after she went upstairs. It was empty now. No coffee, no wallet, no phone. Just the ring. The absence of it on her hand screamed louder than anything she could have said. That night, he didn't confront her. Didn't ask. Didn't accuse. He just watched. Logged into their shared phone plan. Checked her GPS history. A trip to Strathpine Lodge. Twice last week. Odd, considering that was 20 minutes in the opposite direction of the hospital. He noted it. Quietly. The next morning, she was gone before he woke up. Left a note. 7 a.m. call. Back late. Quentin called her direct line at the hospital around noon. She's not on today, the receptionist said. Are you sure? Checked the board myself. Dr. Voss is off until Friday. He thanked her, hung up, and stared out the window at nothing. That was the moment. If you're not following our channel, you might never see it again. But if you're subscribed and use the bell, congratulations. You'll always have access to the most interesting stories whenever you want to watch and listen. Not the GPS log. Not the ring. That was the moment the weight settled in his chest like wet cement. She was lying. Brielle, the woman he built a home with, raised a daughter with, scraped through bankruptcy and cancer scares with, was lying. And he didn't know how long it had been happening, which meant he didn't know her at all anymore. He began logging everything. The receipts she tossed in the trash. The calls she took in the bathroom with the fan on. The text tone that never made a sound anymore. He bought a small camera, disguised as a charger. Planted it in the kitchen. If she noticed, she never said. She was slipping. Careless. And something told him that wasn't arrogance. It was comfort. She thought she had him completely. That she could do this and he would never push back. But Quentin wasn't stupid. And he wasn't spineless. By the end of the second week, he had a full file. Her GPS logs showed repeated visits to Strathpine Lodge, always between 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. A receipt from a boutique hotel bar. 2 drinks. 1 bill to a room. A lipstick-stained napkin with SK scribbled on the corner. 1 very blurry but undeniable still frame from the charger cam. Brielle laughing on a phone call, holding a wine glass, in scrubs. She told him she was working that night. He didn't feel rage. Not the kind you see in movies, with shouting and shattered glasses. He felt finished. Like the final piece of a puzzle had slid into place, and the full image was something he didn't want to keep. He didn't want revenge. He wanted out. That night, he sat down at the kitchen table and wrote a single letter. He folded it neatly, put it in an envelope, taped it to the fridge. Then he walked upstairs and placed her ring back in the cup holder. He printed the grainy photo, the one from the camera, and set it beside the envelope. Packed a duffel bag, and left. He didn't slam the door, didn't scratch the car, didn't even turn off the lights. He just vanished from the life she built on lies. Let the silence do what his words never could. When you dismantle a lie, you have to start small. Quentin Voss wasn't a detective by trade. He worked in residential security systems, the kind of guy you call when you need motion sensors or someone hacked your Nest account. But he had the right brain for it. Pattern-seeking, detail-driven, patient. So when Brielle left for her conference that Friday, he didn't tail her. He tailed her digital footprint. The GPS trail on her phone led straight to a boutique place off the interstate called Strathpine Lodge. Small, upscale, locally owned. The kind of hotel that didn't have a loyalty program because discretion was the brand. He booked a room there the following Monday. Same one she'd visited. Room 218. The receptionist didn't ask questions. Didn't even blink. Quentin walked in, set his duffel down, and opened his laptop. He knew the next move wasn't about her. It was about him knowing what she thought he'd never find. He started from the top. The joint credit card, which they hadn't used jointly in years, had 4 separate Uber Eats charges from the same cafe within a 10-day window. That cafe? Located a block from Strathpine Lodge. He cross-referenced dates with her text log backups. Patterns emerged. Same window of time, same recurring number, an unsaved contact listed only as S. He pinged the number through an app designed for lost contacts and got a name, Silas Gendry. Quentin stared at the name for a while. He'd heard it before. Not from Brielle. From his daughter. Talia Voss had come home one Christmas, gushing about a new research associate shadowing her mother. Silas is cool. Kinda pretentious, but sharp. Mom says he's going places. Apparently, Silas Gendry had gone exactly where Brielle wanted him to. He opened her work laptop. Yes, he had the password. She reused the same one since dental school. Inside, he found a private folder titled CE_documents. Inside that? Photos. Some of them innocent. Conference booths. Medical charts. Travel documents. But one photo made his stomach twist. Silas and Brielle. At a rooftop bar. She was laughing, shoulder tucked under his chin, hand over his. A slice of intimacy too casual to be accidental. Then came the phone records. Hours of calls. Late-night check-ins. Voicemails sent and deleted, but not fast enough. He found one, saved in the cloud, 38 seconds long. He listened to it in his car, just sitting outside a Dunkin' on a Thursday. Missed you already. Can't wait till Sunday. Bring that red scarf, the one you know I love. Quentin played it 3 times. Not because he didn't believe it, but because he did. He printed everything. The GPS logs. The receipts. The photos. The voicemail transcript. He filed it all in a slim black binder, labeled in small print, for your memory. He didn't want to scream. He wanted her to read. Then he did something petty. Not loud. Just calculated. He created a shared Google album, anonymous, and added every image he had of her with Silas. Then sent the link to her work email. Subject line, afternoon rounds? He didn't sign it. Didn't need to. That weekend, she came home like nothing had changed. Set her bag down. Made tea. Asked if he wanted to watch something. Quentin just nodded. Smiled, even. Inside, he was miles away, packing his second duffel, uploading backups to cloud storage, syncing files across devices in case she wiped anything. He was done living in the shadow of her comfort. That night, she went to bed early. He stayed up, staring at her wedding ring in a small velvet box on the kitchen table. He didn't know which part of her had died first, the woman who once traced hearts on his palm, or the one who now used silence as a weapon. When she left the next morning, he didn't wait. He placed the ring back in the cup holder, slipped the black binder into the passenger seat, printed the voicemail and left it on the dashboard. Then he walked away. Before we go further, don't forget to like this story, hit subscribe, and tap the bell so you don't miss what happens next. Quentin Voss didn't write the letter in a rage. He wrote it the way he built his life, measured, intentional, every word chosen like a gear in a finely tuned clock. It took him an hour. He didn't curse, didn't accuse. He just told her who she used to be and who she had become. Brielle, I used to believe love meant trusting without question. You taught me that sometimes it means leaving without permission. I don't know who Silas is to you. I don't really care. What I do know is you didn't slip. You didn't make a mistake. You made a choice. Again and again. This letter is not a plea. It's not a threat. It's not even closure. It's just clarity. You won't find me when you get home. You'll find your ring, the photo you didn't know was taken, and the truth you hoped would stay buried. Tell whatever story you want. Just don't lie to yourself anymore. You loved someone. It just wasn't me. He signed it with a dot. Not his name. Not yours truly. Just a full stop. Final. Clean. He printed the letter, folded it neatly, and slid it into a crisp envelope. No smudges. No tears. He tucked it beneath her favorite coffee mug on the kitchen counter. Then he moved with a precision that would have made his old Navy drill sergeant proud. 23 minutes to pack. 2 bags. No memorabilia. No photos. Just clothes, essentials, his laptop, and a half-used bottle of cologne she once bought him in Paris. That part was for him. He left the house at 11:14 a.m. By 11:20, he had dropped the spare key through the mail slot. By noon, he was gone. He didn't go far, not yet. Rented a short-term place in Ridgewater, quiet, coastal, anonymous. A second-floor walk-up over a bookstore that smelled like mildew and lemon polish. The landlady didn't ask questions. Didn't even blink when he paid 3 months up front. Just handed him the keys and told him the radiator screamed in the mornings. For the next 3 days, Quentin didn't check his phone. He didn't scroll. Didn't call. Didn't respond. Just sat. Read. Walked along the rocky edge of the harbor where tourists never went. The air was cold and clean. His thoughts weren't, but they were his. No longer filtered through the noise of her lies. On the fourth day, he turned his phone back on. Missed calls. Texts. Voicemails. All from Brielle. Some frantic. Some composed. Some angry. One just said, "You coward." He read it 3 times, then deleted it. Then came the call he expected, but not from the person he thought. Talia. Their daughter. 21. Studying architectural design in another state. Close with them both, until Brielle had started pulling away. Talia's voice cracked over the line. "Dad, what happened?" He told her the truth. All of it. No sugarcoat. No slant. Just facts. Silence. Then. "I figured. You did. She's been weird. Cold. Kept pushing me to move in with her this summer. Like she wanted to replace something." Quentin inhaled slowly. "You don't have to pick sides. I'm not. But if I were, I'd pick the one who didn't lie to me." Talia came to visit 2 weeks later. They didn't talk about Brielle much. Instead, she asked about life in Ridgewater. About whether he was eating enough. About the books he'd picked up from downstairs. He made her French toast. She said it was too crispy. They laughed until 2 a.m. And just like that, a thread between father and daughter pulled tighter. Unbroken. Back at the house, Brielle had begun unraveling. She emailed him. Called. Even contacted Dex Whitmer, his closest friend, hoping he'd relay a message. Dex refused. "You had him. You wasted him. Let the man live." Quentin read that reply 3 times. It felt like validation from the universe. And yet, even as he started fresh, he knew something about closure most people don't. It doesn't always come with confrontation. Sometimes, it comes when you realize you don't need to hear their reasons. You already survived their choices. He began seeing someone at a local cafe. Not seriously, not yet. Her name was Mina Thorold. Sharp. Bookish. A bit clumsy. She spilled her drink on their first date and said, "Well, now you'll remember me." She was right. He did. They went slow. No labels. No pressure. Just good coffee and a woman who didn't flinch when he talked about betrayal. She listened. Really listened. And once, after dinner, she said, "You didn't deserve what she did, but you deserve everything that comes next." He smiled. And for the first time in a long time, he believed it. Brielle Voss didn't implode overnight. People like her never do. She unraveled quietly, thread by thread, in all the places she thought no one could see. Her voicemail to Quentin grew longer, more desperate. Then curt. Then weirdly casual. "Hope you're okay. Let me know if you want to talk." Then angry. "Are you seriously going to ignore me forever?" Then pitiful. "I miss you. We can fix this. Please. Just call me." But he didn't. Not once. Because Quentin had learned something painful and true. The people who break you rarely care about the pieces. They only care that they're no longer in control of them. Meanwhile, in Arbor Hill, Brielle's pristine reputation began to chip. Strathpine Lodge had discreet policies, sure, but someone still had to clean the rooms. Someone still saw her with Silas Kendry. Word got around. A friend of a friend. A cousin who worked front desk. By the time the hospital board caught wind of it, the rumors weren't even rumors anymore. Silas resigned quietly. Transferred states. Brielle stayed, but her face, once always in glossy brochures and award banquets, began to fade from the posters. She stopped getting invited to panels. Colleagues kept their distance. And then there was Talia, their daughter. She came home once that winter, not for her mother. For Quentin. She stayed in Ridgewater for 10 days. Helped paint the walls of his new apartment. Brought wine. They argued over movie choices. She mocked his Spotify playlist. And one night, while they were baking pre-cut sugar cookies, the ones with little snowmen on them, she turned serious. "You ever gonna forgive her?" Quentin shrugged. "Forgiveness isn't required for healing. That a yes or a no?" "It's a. I'm not carrying it with me anymore." She nodded. "She asked me to choose, you know." He looked at her. "She did. Told me if I wanted a future with her, I'd have to stop enabling your pity party." That hurt. Deeper than he expected. And I told her I don't pick cowards. After that visit, Quentin knew things would never be the same, and he was okay with it. He and Talia started texting more. Photos. Memes. Updates on her studio projects. She called Mina the bookshop lady until Mina finally came to dinner and beat her in Scrabble. Then she called her trouble with a smile. As for Brielle, she remarried. Quietly. Not to Silas. No one knew where he'd landed. This man was some pharmaceutical rep. Been something. Tall. Tan. Dead eyes. Quentin only found out because Talia texted him a screenshot. "I'm not going," she wrote. "Did she invite you?" "She told me she was eloping." Then sent a wedding pic 6 hours later. Quentin didn't reply. What was there to say? Brielle kept choosing people who didn't really know her, because they didn't know what she'd done. It was easier that way. Easier than facing the people who remembered who she used to be. One spring, Talia graduated. Her final project won a regional architecture award. The ceremony was live-streamed. Mina watched it from her bookstore register. Quentin watched it from the crowd, hand over his heart when she walked across that stage in her emerald green stole. And afterward, in a quiet corner of the reception tent, Talia hugged him. Hard. "Thank you for always showing up." Brielle never called, never wrote, never apologized. But she did something more revealing. She started telling people her version of the story. That Quentin checked out emotionally. That he walked away without a word. That she was left picking up the pieces of a broken marriage. People nodded, smiled, let her believe it. But the ones who mattered? They knew. And that's what burned the most. Because Brielle didn't just lose Quentin. She lost his absence. The one thing she once counted on to stay quietly in orbit around her. And now, he was someone else's gravity. It was late June when Talia announced she was getting married. Quentin was at Mina's shop, fixing a creaky light fixture when his phone buzzed with a message. "Hey Dad, can I call?" Her voice was calm, but her words spilled like water breaking a dam. His little girl, all grown, was marrying a woman named Elia. They'd been dating for nearly 3 years. Quentin had known, of course. Had met her. Liked her. But hearing it official, hearing, "We picked a venue," and "We want you to walk me down the aisle," that hit different. She didn't even pause before saying it. And no, Mom's not invited. Quentin didn't push. Didn't ask why. He already knew. Some betrayals echo through generations. Not because people hold grudges, but because they remember who stood beside them when everything broke. Talia didn't just remember the day he moved out. She remembered the quiet nights after. The cold silences in her mother's kitchen. The way Brielle changed the subject every time her name was mentioned. She remembered honesty. And she remembered lies. The wedding was held in a sun-drenched gallery in Boston. Minimalist, clean lines, glass walls, plants draped in corners like living chandeliers. Talia walked herself halfway down the aisle, then stopped, turned, and reached for Quentin's hand. "Finish it with me." He blinked, nodded. Everyone stood. And in that moment, every scar on Quentin's soul turned soft. Mina stood in the front row. She wore a deep navy dress and a smile she saved just for him. And when they locked eyes, she gave him the smallest, surest nod. "You got her here," it seemed to say. "Now go finish strong." Later, as champagne popped and laughter swirled through the air, a small commotion gathered by the venue entrance. Elia's cousin had stepped outside to take a call and saw someone standing at the edge of the sidewalk. A woman in a muted gray dress, hair pinned back, holding a small clutch bag, tight enough to turn her knuckles white. Brielle. She wasn't inside. She wasn't on the guest list. But she was there, watching. Talia saw her. Didn't flinch. Didn't approach. Just leaned into Elia, whispered something, and kissed her cheek. Then she grabbed Mina's hand and pulled her toward the dance floor. Quentin turned and saw her, too. She looked older, thinner, fragile in a way he'd never seen. For a second, just one, a flicker of sympathy tugged at him. But then she turned and walked away. Just like that. No drama. No scene. Only the sound of her heels clicking against concrete as she faded from view. He never mentioned it to Talia. Didn't need to. They both knew what that moment meant. Brielle had waited too long to matter again. That night, as the wedding wound down and guests melted into cabs and hotel lobbies, Talia hugged her father goodbye. "Thank you," she whispered, "for staying whole." He held her a moment longer than usual, then let her go. Back at the apartment, Mina poured him a drink. Something smooth. Gold. A gift from Elia's family. They sat in silence on the couch, shoes off, tired smiles stretched across their faces. "Did she see you?" Mina asked softly. "Yeah," Quentin said. "But I don't think she liked what she saw." Mina nodded. "You looked strong." "I felt finished." They clinked glasses. And in that clink, there wasn't triumph. There was peace. Quentin Voss sat by the window of Mina's bookshop, watching early autumn light stretch across the street like soft gold ribbon. It was quiet, the kind of quiet you earn. The kind that doesn't ask questions anymore. 6 years had passed since the envelope. Since the ring. Since the picture and the manila truth he left behind. He had never gone back to that house. Never walked past it. Never checked to see if someone else lived there now. Because the person he used to be inside those walls didn't live anywhere anymore. He had moved out of that version of himself just as fully as he moved out of Brielle's life. Mina slid a cup of coffee across the table, kissed his temple, and asked the question she always did when she sensed him drifting inward. "Where'd you go?" He smiled. "Nowhere bad." Sometimes, he still got emails from people they used to know. People who hadn't picked a side back then, but now felt emboldened to resurface. "Heard about Talia's wedding. Beautiful photos. We always knew you were the rock. Hope things are good with you. And, Mina, is it?" Quentin read them, smiled politely, and deleted every one. He had no use for people who showed up only after the fire went out. One email did catch his eye. From Dex Whitmer. Old friend. One of the few who'd never straddled the fence. The subject line read, "You might want to see this." Inside was a link to a video, a recorded seminar at a small hospital in upstate Vermont. At the podium, Brielle, gray streaks in her hair. Softer now. Less polished. She spoke about burnout. About regret. About how one wrong decision can fracture a decade of trust. She never mentioned names. But Quentin recognized every pause. Every crack in her voice. He didn't feel vindicated watching it. Just, still. A man watching the last ember of a fire he no longer feared. Talia came to visit that Thanksgiving. She brought Elia, a rescue dog named Pepper, and 3 types of pie. They spent the weekend on mismatched furniture, playing card games and arguing over who cheated at Monopoly. At one point, Talia leaned back on the couch and said, "You know what Mom said when she found out I invited you to walk me down the aisle?" "What?" "I always thought you'd grow out of needing him." She snorted. Imagine thinking I'd ever grow into needing her. Quentin didn't respond. Didn't need to. She wasn't seeking comfort. She was declaring victory. That night, Mina sat with him on the porch. Pepper curled at their feet. The air sharp but calm. "Do you think she ever really loved you?" Mina asked. Quentin thought about it. Not the early years, not the blurry happiness of first homes and baby bottles and late-night drives to nowhere. But the end. The coldness. The calculated deceit. "I think she loved the idea of me. And hated the reality?" "No," he said. "She just stopped seeing me as real. That was the hardest part of betrayal. Not the pain. Not even the loss. But the realization that someone could erase your worth and still sleep at night. And yet, it had led him here. To this life. This woman. This porch. This peace. He hadn't just survived Brielle's betrayal. He'd outgrown it. And that, he realized, was the lesson she taught him without meaning to, that sometimes the people who break you are also the ones who push you into becoming someone better. Not because they cared, but because they stopped pretending. So he folded that truth into his bones. Not with bitterness. With clarity. And every time he thought about the man who once stared at a ring in a cup holder, frozen and unsure, he raised a quiet toast in his mind. To the man who walked away and never looked back. If this story touched you, share it with someone who needs to hear it too. Also, tell us in the comments, where are you watching from? What city and country? And have you, or someone you know, ever been through something like this?